Okay, so this is our last video in the series. We're going to talk about what happens with direct object pronouns using the passé composé. So the first thing I wanted to mention is that you're only ever going to have the auxiliary verb avoir when you have a direct object pronoun. Why is this? I don't think they explained this in the last structure section when they were introducing the passé composé with être, but the passé composé with être, those verbs are intransitive. That means they can't have a direct object. They don't ever have a direct object. So that's why with the verb sortir, sometimes you have a choice. You're either going to use the auxiliary verb être with sortir, or if it means something slightly different, you're going to use avoir. So let's look at that for a second. Sortir means to go out. So if you want to say I went out, you say je suis sorti. And if you're female, you're going to add an E to the end. So je suis sorti means I went out. That sentence can't have a direct object. Okay? But if you want to say I took the car out of the garage, in that situation, the car is a direct object, and that's why you have to use the verb avoir in that sentence. So you would say, j'ai sorti la voiture du garage. If you don't understand that explanation, don't worry about it too much. Just know you're never going to see the auxiliary verb être with the direct object pronoun. It's just not going to happen. Okay. So let's take our same sentence. We have je regarde la télé, I watch television, and let's put that in the passé composé. All right. So regarder takes the auxiliary avoir. So we're going to say j'ai, and then the past participle of regarder is regarder, just spelled like this. So j'ai regardé la télé. I watched television. That's the passé composé. All right, so we have our direct object la télé. We know that we need to replace that with la. It's actually going to be L apostrophe because of the place that we're going to put the direct object pronoun when we have the passé composé. So with the passé composé, the pronoun goes before the auxiliary verb. So when we were doing the last video and we had two verbs together, we were putting it between the two verbs. This is different. With the passé composé, it actually goes before the auxiliary verb. I kind of like to think of it as if the auxiliary and the past participle have to be together. They have to stay together for the sentence to make sense. So if we want to say I watched it, we say je. We're going to put L apostrophe because A starts with a vowel. Je l'ai regardé. Now the tricky thing about the passé composé, when you have a direct object pronoun, it comes before the past participle. We actually have to make the past participle agree with the pronoun. So up here, we were making the past participle agree with the subject, and you do have to do that with all of the, I call them Van der Tramp verbs, all the ones that take être, right, that list. You can use that trick, Dr. and Mrs. Van der Tramp, to memorize these guys. They do have to agree with the subject. In this situation, the past participle is actually agreeing with the direct object pronoun. So this was feminine because it was la télé, so we need to add an E on te regarder. I know, you're probably rolling your eyes right now. It just is what it is. This is one of those things, if you made a mistake when you were speaking, in this one, it doesn't make a difference. It's pronounced the same way. Je l'ai regardé. If you forgot the E in your mind, no one would know because it's pronounced the same way. We're going to see below, sometimes it affects the pronunciation. And if you messed this up while you were speaking, it's not a big deal. It's not going to affect the person's ability to understand what you're saying. You're just going to sound like you're not a native French speaker. It's totally okay. You do want to know to do this for the, activities in the test so you don't get marked wrong. But it's one of those things you just learn as you go. It's okay if you mess it up. when you want to make the sentence negative, so you're going to say, I didn't watch it, the ne and the pas, well, let's go back to the sentence here. If we want to make that sentence negative, j'ai regardé la télé, and we want to say I didn't watch television, we would say, remember that the ne pas goes around the auxiliary verb. So we would say, je n'ai pas regardé la télé. Okay. The pas is going to go in the same place. The ne is going to include the pronoun and the auxiliary verb. So we're going to say, je ne l'ai pas regardé. All right, so the ne pas is going to go around the pronoun, the direct object pronoun, and the auxiliary verb. All right, let's look at some other sentences. This one, j'ai mis le stylo sur la table. I put the pen on the table. All right, le stylo is our direct object. That's masculine, so we're going to replace it with le. And we're going to put it before the auxiliary verb. So, je l'ai mis sur la table. I put it on the table. Okay, now here's one where it's plural. J'ai mis les stylos sur la table. I put the pens on the table. So our pronoun is going to be les. And put it in the same place. Je les ai mis sur la table. Let's make this one negative too, so that we remember how we do the ne pas. Je ne les ai pas mis sur la table. All right, so our past participle here, mis, we would want to make it plural, but because it ends with S, there's nothing to do. It already ends in an S. You don't add another S. We just leave it. So that is singular or plural if it's masculine. Okay. All right, let's look at one with a feminine direct object. So, j'ai mis la valise dans la voiture. I put the suitcase in the car. La valise is our direct object. It's feminine. Okay, so, oops, je l'ai mis, and so la valise was feminine, so we're going to make the past participle agree with the direct object pronoun by adding an E, which you'll see does change the pronunciation. So to pronounce this, you say, je l'ai mise dans la voiture, right? Should we make that one negative? We'll do that one. We won't do all of them, but je ne l'ai pas mise dans la voiture. Okay, and I'm going to just pull this one up just a little bit. In this sentence, we have j'ai mis les valises dans la voiture. So we have more than one suitcase. I put the suitcases in the car. Right, this is les, but it's feminine, so we want to remember that. So our sentence would be, I put them in the car. Je les ai mis, and because it's valise, which is feminine, we're going to add an E. It's also plural, so we're going to add an S. Je les ai mises dans la voiture. Okay, it's not too bad. Maybe a little bad. All right. So here's some practice. Oh, something happened to my table, so I'm just going to do the answer down here. Okay. So we're going to rewrite the sentences and replace the direct object with a pronoun. All right, so our first sentence is Loïc a pris le train. So Loïc took the train. The direct object is le train, which we replace with le, actually à l'apostrophe. So we would say Loïc l'a pris. Loïc took it. Train is masculine and it's singular, so we don't have to do anything de pris in this sentence. Okay. Numéro 2, elle a attendu sa mère. She waited for her mother. Sa mère, her mother is the direct object. Okay, that's feminine. Sorry, my dog's barking. If you can hear that. So, elle l'a attendu. And because it's feminine, we're going to add an E. Doesn't change the pronunciation. Elle l'a attendu. She waited for her. All right, numéro 3. J'ai fait une mousse au chocolat. I made a chocolate mousse. Okay. Chocolate mousse is our direct object. It's feminine. So we would say je l'ai fait, but we're going to add an E on the end because it's une mousse. And so the pronunciation for this would be je l'ai faite. Okay. Nous avons compris les blagues. We understood the jokes. Les blagues is our direct object. So we're going to say we understood them, plural. Do you know if les blagues, that's masculine or feminine? This is why it's so important to memorize the gender of nouns. It pops up in so many weird places and it affects things. So I know it's hard, but eventually, I don't know, it starts becoming a little more second nature. All right, blague is feminine. It's une blague. So nous, it's plural. So we're going to put les avons compris. We're going to add an E for feminine and an S because it's plural. So we have nous les avons comprises. And the last one. Ils ont invité leurs camarades de classe. They invited their classmates. Their classmates is our direct object. And we'll assume it's masculine and feminine combined. So we'll use the masculine. Ils les ont invités. And add an S because it's plural. Okay, I hope this made sense. You're going to, I think that there's 2 activities in VHL Central. I'll add a note with this video so that you know which ones to do. I guess it's whatever's remaining in VHL Central that you haven't done yet. So practice using direct object pronouns with the passé composé. Bon courage et à plus tard.